Hello, everybody. It is great to be here today. Welcome back to another episode of Simplenight Presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm your host. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team at Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai, an AI HR tech company that I co-founded with Dr. David Lang. Today, we're diving into how travel is being completely transformed by AI, personalization, and real-time data. Our guest today is my good friend Sanjay Bhatia, who's the CEO of Runday and the founder of Runday.ai. And he's a leading figure in tech innovation globally. Today, we're going to talk about Simplenight and how it's reimagining the way we discover and book everything anywhere in the world, anytime. So let's jump into it. Hi, Sanjay. It's great to have you here today.
Hey there, happy Friday and happy Good Friday.
So, let's talk about how AI is impacting travel. And, on the Simple Night side, it's a global experience platform that goes far beyond booking, where you can book anything, anywhere, anytime. But how do you think, Sanjay, our world's going to change with all these types of technologies?
You always see competition as the element that creates shifts. So, decades ago, we saw the first travel sites pop up. You could, instead of going to visiting your agent or calling your agent, you could go on a website, book a flight, book a car, book a hotel room. And, we've sort of have stabilized into a sort of a certain way of doing things where there's some minimal discounting if you do things together, but it really doesn't cultivate an experience the way a travel agent would. Someone who's like excited about, where they're going to send you, that they have other clients that have been there, they perhaps have been there themselves. So with generative AI, these experiences are actually, out there in, on Twitter, on Instagram. They're available data sets that have been used to program these agents that have an experience with being somewhere. That can be leveraged to really become far more than an interface. I think these first generation AIs are just sort of user interfaces, right? But really, it becomes a prescriptive recommendation engine that really takes your voyage, your visit, your trip to the next level. And it can cultivate all the little minutiae of what I get excited about is the scheduling, right? So, you have to get to the connector flight, to the flight, to to the car, to the boat, to wherever you're going and however you're getting there. Connecting all those things together is still a massive, human effort that, that people get wrong a lot of times. I mean, how many stories have we heard about, one of my friends who does ocean rescue, she had a situation where because of a Singapore situation, they couldn't do I had a trip where we were going to Bangkok, and I was planning to travel through India, but you got to get a certain kind of visa to do that. The normal visa doesn't work. It only works on a round trip ticket. So there's a lot of little things like that that a great travel agent with a lot of experience can do that AIs are starting to be able to do exceptionally well.
We talked today about hyper personalization. Do you hear an echo? Is it echoing
Uh,
for
no,
you or not? That's
I don't hear
strange.
one.
I feel like I'm speaking in a canyon
You,
somewhere. We talk about hyper personalization, and we talk about travel, and we talk about using AI contextual data like time of day, travel history, preferences, even weather to create recommendations. It's kind of interesting because today you go into one of these websites or Expedia or Priceline, and you book a flight, which shouldn't it be that you just book a destination and it understands who you are. For instance, you're traveling to Tokyo and love sushi. Imagine being able to recommend a Michelin-starred spot near the hotel, understand that you like ball and golf, and it sets the reserve times up, and it knows your friend from Georgia Tech is going to be over there, and they like karaoke at the same time. So how far is this hyper personalization going to go?
The most interesting new use cases in hyperpersonalizations I'm seeing are actually video oriented. We're seeing some of our clients generate personalized videos, and where it applies to travel, I think is one of the news stories that just happened this week was the travel to space. We had the first all female crew on the Blue Origin flight to the atmosphere and to almost the lower Earth orbit. And a couple interesting things out of it is there's some controversy over like sort of some of the way they presented the research, but it's very exciting that space tourism is a new thing, and that you could have people that going into space now on a regular basis, and these experiences. And one of the interesting things, though, from the commentary was that people thought there were some elements of it that may have been presented, in an authentic way, but some people were like, "Well, AI is so good. How do we know this entire thing isn't fake?"
Yeah, no, I saw
And
that too. It's kind of interesting.
I think we can do some verification easily, but from a first impression perspective, they could have faked the whole thing with AI. I mean, the technology is there today. And so what got me excited about that idea was not so much, faking a news story, but this idea that you could create a curated trip. Like, what is your trip going to be like, right? So if we're going to Bangkok, if we're going to India, if we're going to Colombia, what are some of the things we might be interested in based on our history and background, and create a curated video to encourage us, or maybe show some things we might want to see. Like if you go to like Bimini, they have the pigs that are swimming and just things people like. So imagine you're going, it's sort of cultivating this video based on who you are, and it looks completely real. I mean, what an amazing sales tool that would be, and not just a sales tool, but an organization tool to help you plan your trip.
Well, using behavioral analytics, preferences, and contextual triggers to generate suggestions is pretty interesting. I mean, that's what the future is, right? Dive deeper. So if you're traveling with your kids and you want to go to family activities, if you're traveling for business to Bangkok, and there's certain things you want to see and do, you have the opportunity to be able to do it. Kind of like your grandmother loves you and cares about you, right? With empathy and compassion. It's like a smart travel agent on steroids. So what do you think if we look at it, how far are these smart assistants going to go in a concierge way? And how can we enhance all of our experience with concierge, hyper intelligent AI assistants?
All of it's possible today. So we have the technology. It is ready. It's available. It is ready to use. The challenge today is really cost. It takes a significant amount of compute. So OpenAI, they had put out a couple models with the O3 reasoning models, and now they're moving to the next generation now, and they've made it more efficient. But it's sort of a, like that video I described. It's totally possible to do today. You can make it almost completely automated, but I mean, if it costs you, say, it's $5 of compute to make that hyper personalized video, generate it, send it, that's not, within the margins of that business, right? So we're going to have to figure out more ways to use combinations of models that are at different cost structures. And Amazon has actually done a really great job with their latest Luna models, where like there's like sort of a sliding scale of cost and accuracy. So if I just describe a city that I want to go to, figuring out what city it is, where's the airport, that doesn't require that big of a model, right? So that component of it might be a small model, or the language I'm speaking, just detecting the language that I asked the question is. You don't need an advanced AI model to do heavy compute to just figure, oh, this is Spanish. Let me guide you in the Spanish direction. But then there might be something I might ask, like, oh, if I want to go to India and then Bangkok and fly back, what flights can I do? And that reasoning model might, okay, well, here's the flights, and maybe I'm, looking at my Sky Miles or my affiliate and loyalty programs. It can optimize it a little bit, but just telling me the way the laws and the visas are, you're gonna have to fill out this form and get this approval before you can do it. That's gonna require an advanced reasoning model. That is heavy compute. So if that component of it, if it took $1, to figure that piece out, that dollar's very well worth it versus being at an
Well,
airport
that's
not
good
being able
because
to.
you're not going to miss
Yeah,
something, right?
right.
And you know what that's like on the trip to Bangkok. You were going down through that yourself with India.
Yeah, yeah. So and luckily the AI told me, but I had to sort of ask the question. But an advanced reasoning model, like you're saying, Gary, like cares about you in a way where it's going to be proactive about prevention in terms of any complications, or perhaps there's an earthquake somewhere, or there's different things that happen, just like we've had in San Diego and in Thailand as well. So just those news stories that affect the situation. Maybe you want to change your travel dates. that's worth that dollar, right? So that's worth that extra compute. But I think as an industry, we got to figure out how do we balance these tools out. How does this toolbox work so we can afford to leverage AI at every level, but at the appropriate level of compute and cost? And the companies that figure that out are going to really thrive and scale.
And these tools aren't just for the end users, they're for governments and enterprise clients, right? Imagine cities, airlines, hotels, and tourism boards using tools like this to be able to curate and monetize these experiences. Local experiences, unique local experiences. Like I want to take a bike ride and I'm in Bangkok. I want to go and have lobster at the beach. And this is a restaurant to go to. An airline could sell excursions or dining. I mean, government, they don't use what they have wisely. Imagine being able to boost tourism by showcasing activities and services through their own white label. Hey, come to Thailand. And, you come out, open up, let the girl open her arms up, and you're coming into Thailand. But these kind of things are not just for tourism, they're for everything because we need to have these hyper personalized experiences, son,
Yeah.
right? It's happening fast. People don't realize it. Our world's dynamically changing. It's not going to be this thing is one off where you're going to Priceline and booking. And I'm not picking on Priceline, but I do it myself. I book a hotel, but I want it to book an experience, not just a hotel. And I wanted to understand what kind of hotel I like. And I don't need to have the one that costs the most. I need to have the one that has the best service at the right kind of price. Right? Those
There's a
kind of
big
things.
shift right now in thinking about AI as I think the media tells a story that AI is a cost cutter, and to me that's almost ridiculous and almost a cover up story because if you project out demographics, you look at growth rates and populations, we're short a billion workers in the next 18 years. And so right now people are like thinking about AI in the wrong way in terms of a cost cutting measure. It should really be a competitive weapon. So if you're able to provide these hyper personalized experiences before your competitors do, a lot's going to go into that. And so I think people are like thinking about it like, oh, I can save some money here and there, be a little more profitable, but that's the wrong dynamic. What I'm predicting is that we've been in an era where you had these very basic AI tools on these call centers, and everyone's, oh, can I just talk to a human? Can I just hit zero to talk to a human? Well, now what's happening is the turnover rate is very hard to hire people for a call center. You can't. You're paying them. It's starting to move towards six figures. Even at high rates, they don't stay. So the person you're talking to has only been there 3 months. They were trained by somebody that's only been there 6 months. So the value of talking to a human is actually diminishing. And I think we're going to see a shift where the consumer is going to be like, hey, do you just have an AI I can work with? Like, I don't want to wait 51 minutes to talk to somebody or 18 minutes to text somebody. Like, like I experienced this with, Delta. I wanted to move my flight 2 days. You'd think one of the largest airlines in the world would be able to keep up and hire enough people for good support, but they can't, right? If they can't, no one can in that industry. And so,
Well,
there's
actually,
a
I
need
think
for.
their service has gotten worse, to be honest with you. The like simple things. When going over to Thailand the first time, I booked my ticket through Atlanta, and they booked the ticket in a 45-minute window to get from one part of the airport to the other. And the problem was you got to go through customs. You got a lot more work you got to do going out. There's no way to do it. You can't go through those terminals. And it wasn't smart enough to think that you need an hour and 50 minutes, not 45 minutes to be able to do it.
Yeah, when I was unable to do it inside of the app, and perhaps because it was a partnership with another airline, and then the only way to do it was to call, and then I called, and then they were like the wait time is 51 minutes. I think to me that was a real confirmation that you just aren't going to be able to hire people for call center work anymore in
Well, you
any
can't get a
level.
hold of them.
Yeah.
You may be going on the plane, and you can't get a hold of the people that are there that can make the change for you. Why would they have, these AI assistants, kind of like Runday has, right? Go down through that
Yeah.
can get down through and help you to be able to make those changes and understands what you like.
So the managers need to understand. So I think it's a hiring challenge, right? So like Delta's competing with all thousands of other companies to hire these staff. Their call center, they can't do it, right? And neither can anyone else. And the problem's bad now, But where I think people are not seeing the future properly is how much worse it gets over the next 2 decades. So, you're not going to want to pay someone high six figures to operate a phone. It doesn't make any sense when an AI can do a significantly better job. So it's got to be thought through in a strategic and competitive way, not as a cost cutting measure. I think this AI cost cutting, reducing jobs that the media is preaching is just a scare tactic and not the right way to think about things.
One of the things that happens when you're building a model like this, and sometimes we forget, it's not just about the AI, it's about the thousands of or millions of suppliers across travel, retail, dining, entertainment, in terms of Simplenight's case, that you have to have lined up because if your AI is not using the data that you have, and if you don't have those relationships in place, how in the heck do you get the inventory, right? And then
Yeah.
how do you know the inventory is up to date? You can't have something that's 2 days old, book a hotel to go to this place, Diminy, and you find out that the hotel's not available. You got to stay in a hostel.
Yeah, so there's lots of like tag is table augmented generation. There's lots of new capabilities for accessing APIs and JSON data that's updated real time. Perplexity is a good example of where it keeps up with media, like if there's earthquakes, if there's travel, shutdowns for travel issues. I think last year there was a shutdown in because of the security software. My parents were actually going to come down to Florida, and they were at the airport, and they were sort of saying, "Hell, there's delays." They asked, "Okay, well, how long is the delay?" And they said 3 days. And so they just drove back home. And so as these things happen, just in the general media, on Twitter, in the Twitterverse, wherever your data source is, but also real time inventory data to the hotel rooms, to the flights, to whatever product you're selling, that can all be very easily interconnected now.
And the one thing, this is not just for the end users, like we talked about. Think about corporations. I remember when I worked for HP for a few years, and I wanted to get travel done. It took me a week to get them to come back with my itinerary and a hotel room. But imagine being able to book these companies itineraries, manage budget, integrate into HR travel approval systems instant. How much time is that going to save, and how much money? It's crazy.
A lot, and ultimately Wall Street investors are going to be demanding this. So just like these stories like DeepSeek R1 are moving the market significantly, creating trillion-dollar movements in the market. I think it's going to become much more subtle where if you're seeing specific executives leading companies not embracing AI, that's going to result in stock movement. So you're going to literally see stories about people partnering with vendors or embracing new AI technologies, moving the stock in subtle ways, and that'll become the new the new reality. So just like you're managing earnings and expectations and dealing with these kind of crazy things like tariffs and DeepSeek that are happening, it's gonna be a lot of smaller things where part of the job will be embracing AI, not again, not as a cost cutting or job reduction measure at all, but as a competitive weapon.
The other thing is I've been writing a lot about omni-channel experiences. And if we take these omni-channel experiences and really extend it to who we are, imagine having your MacBook. You need to make changes on your car. You can actually install your smart speaker. You can talk to it. That assistant follows you anywhere. Imagine having that complete continuity. Why don't we have it today? It's crazy, right? And travel planning is one of them. Talk about a little bit about Runday and the kind of things that you're doing for the omni-channel experience.
Yeah, so Ren is uniting human and AI agents to really help companies grow much faster. And so we have found that the omni-channel approach is significantly more effective than anything optimized for one channel. I mean, just think of, we think of AI as a team of interns that never quits and never leaves. So if you'd hired a bunch of interns, how would you communicate with them? Would you limit yourself to one channel? Would you only email them or only WhatsApp? No, you'd still have Slack and you'd have WhatsApp and you'd have LinkedIn and you'd have lots of ways to not only communicate with them, but communicate with clients in the methodology that they prefer. So you're going to have a multi-person email, you're going to have a Slack channel or a WhatsApp group with multiple partners from different companies. And so that's just a necessary part of what AI has to do. It can't just be, okay, we're just really good at doing WhatsApp, or we're really good at LinkedIn outreach. It's got to be comprehensive. And at Runday, we figured out that, well, we utilize things like cold email as sort of the initiator a lot of times. Once people are
Let's
having a
talk about what do
dialogue.
you mean about initiator?
And so it's possible today to find buyers and customers who've never met you. If you can define them, LinkedIn is almost a database, right? You can't use it directly like a database, but there's multiple ways to access that data. So with that data, you can find the right buyers in your ideal client profile and do outreach, through things like LinkedIn messaging and WhatsApp, but also do it, in kind of mass in terms of cold emails. And that results, when you integrate it with an omni-channel approach, an incredibly high response rate, especially when you hyper personalize it. In fact, you have to hyper personalize it these days because of the way Google and Microsoft are looking at like templated or bulk email these days. So that it's a great way to initiate a conversation from a compliance perspective. For if you want to text somebody, you have to have a existing conversation, or they have to click through an agreement. So to stay compliant, there's certain ways to initiate those relationships. But once they're initiated, you can message them. We're all overwhelmed with emails. It's almost every day there's sort of like a situation where, someone sent someone an email but they hadn't noticed it. And so, it's like you got to text people, got to call people. And email is sort of a foundational element, but it on its own is no longer an effective tool. You got to implement the right instant messaging to it.
So how much, using tools like these type of tools, Simplenight, Runday, how much impact do they have on a company's business? What is it? What do you think? Where is the impact, and how can we quantify that in terms of money? Money
It is
saved,
getting to
money
the point
saved,
where
money
it
earned.
separates, it separates from the winners and the also rans in the industry. So if you're using these competitive weapons, you know, you have an edge. And so, everyone always has to keep up. Technology always changes, business always changes, society and culture changes. So the companies that are not just keeping up but staying ahead, I mean, they're not just, a little more profitable. They're dominating. New brands are being created faster than ever. Companies that no one's ever heard of within, a couple years are becoming, multi-billion-dollar companies. So the level of which acceleration is possible is unprecedented.
We're looking at the future. Things like multi-agent AI systems, deeper voice interface integrations, even augmented reality, like overlays for city navigation. These type of tools are going to help build out these enterprise layers that allow people to be able to governments, corporations, partners to be able to integrate, and that's what it's all about, right? It's all about that on the run day. It's all about that at Simple Night. It's not just about travel, it's about discovery. It's about it's not just a solo adventurer or a multinational national company, it's being able to serve them. It's not just of a small enterprise, medium enterprise on the runway side. It's about being able to serve anybody, anytime, any place. Having the right kind of experience faster and more intuitively. The like I said, the compassion and empathy like your grandmother. So the future is here. For all of you out there in the audience, take a look at these tools. They're going to be able to change and dramatically impact your lives for your corporation, a government, or an end user. Sanjay, closing thoughts, and how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, the lines are starting to blur. So just like some people were speculating that the Blue Origin flight was completely AI generated, and it could have been these days. We had an incident where, a customer was interacting with their AI and our customer success team, and they jumped on the call. They were surprised that my customer success manager could talk because they thought they were interacting with the AI the whole time. So because things are getting so good, people were like blurring the lines. So it's a magical time. You can reach me at sanjay@runday.ai.
That's great. Thanks, Sanjay. So for all of you out there, Simple Night is optimizing travel and creating smarter journeys for all of us, for corporations, for multinational corporations, for governments, for individuals. Explore everything to do anywhere in the world. Check it out, simplenight.com. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm your host. Sanjay, thanks for joining again. It's great to see you as always. And thanks to all of you. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. We'll be back to you again soon with another exciting initiative. Thank you, everybody.